Welcome back, grade 11, unit 4, animal intelligence. Today we're going to talk about focus on speaking. So if you can open your textbook at page 90, that would be great. Okay. Focus on speaking. Here we see the vocabulary. This is the vocabulary we talked about throughout listening 1 and listening 2, the whole unit 4. And we're just going to review it right now. And you're going to circle the 2 words that are connected to the underlined words. So those are either the synonyms of the underlined word, such as remarkable, which could be incredible or surprising. Circle the 2 words that are correlated to the underlined word. You're gonna pause your video to do that. Go ahead. Great. Okay, now here we listen and we read the transcript of a radio talk show as a host answers comments from callers. Yeah? Okay, let's listen.
Our guest today is Dr. James Rutledge, an expert on animal behavior. Welcome, Dr. Rutledge. I've asked our listeners to call in to tell us their stories of smart animals or animals that cause problems. We've got calls from all over. Yes, hello, Lynn? You're on the air.
Hi, I'm calling about a smart animal that's causing me problems. I have a bird feeder hanging in my yard. No matter what I do, squirrels eat all the food. They're such a nuisance. I've tried to put a stop to it every way I can think of, but the squirrels always figure out a solution. How can I outsmart them? And also, raccoons are getting into my attic.
Sorry to butt in here, Lynn, but I want to stick to one question at a time. Dr. Rutledge, what about Lynn's squirrel problem?
Well, squirrels are clever at getting food and enjoy a challenge. However, you can outwit them. Most likely, they're getting at your feeder from above. Raise it higher and move it to an open space so they can't jump down from the house or trees.
Thanks for calling, Lynn. Okay, Yannick. Yannick, are you there? You have the floor.
Yes, hello. I'm calling about problems with deer, which are not very intelligent animals. I make a living selling garden plants, but deer jump my fence at night and eat everything. It's costing me a fortune. What's more, they're dangerous.
Dangerous? What do you mean?
Deer often run into the street and cause car accidents. I like animals as much as the next person, but at some point, we have to admit that humans are more, well, superior to animals. Deer are not endangered animals. We just have to get rid of them if they become problems.
You mean kill them? Some people might think killing them is pushing the envelope a bit, no? Callers, what do you think? The phone lines are already ringing. Alicia, you're on.
Hi, I just heard your last caller, and I take issue with his cruel solution to the deer problem. Animals are helpless next to humans, so it's our responsibility to protect them, not kill them because they're in our way. The humane thing to do is stop thinking that wild animals are a nuisance and just learn to live with them.
Dr. Rutledge, would you like to weigh in here?
Both callers have good points. We have to allow for human activity, but we also want to be ethical in our treatment of animals. And we want to preserve what we can of the natural world for our children, of course.
Okay, time for one last caller. Kenna, you're on the air.
I saw a very smart cat on my local news and on YouTube. He's called the cat burglar because he sneaks out at night and steals from families in the neighborhood. He takes bathing suits, shoes, toys, all kinds of things, and delivers them all to his embarrassed owners. He's taken hundreds of items in a couple of years.
Okay. Intriguing case. It would be fun to study this cat's behavior and figure out his motivation. For example, maybe he's categorizing these objects by smell or taste.
Or maybe he's just having fun. At any rate, we're out of time for today. So thanks, callers, and thank you for joining us today, Dr. Rutledge.
Okay. Okay, that brings us to the words that you've been hearing just now. Put a stop to, butt in, make a living, endangered, get rid of, pushing the envelope, take issue with, humane, ethical, and weigh in. What I want you to do is match the word and phrases on the left with the definitions on the right. Pause your video, go ahead. Awesome. Now we're gonna take turns asking and answering these questions using vocabulary from this section, this yellow box. The words are listed in the box below, so check them off as you use them so you don't reuse them. Before beginning, look at the questions and write a few notes. Now, we have here 6 questions. What is your reaction to the comments of these callers? Do you think the animals mentioned in the interview, squirrels, deer, and cats, are intelligent? Why or why not? What other animals do people consider a nuisance? Are they just annoying, or do they pose a danger to humans? What abilities do animals have that people don't have? And what abilities do people have that animals don't have? Do you think people are sometimes unethical in the way they treat animals? Can you think of examples in which animals are not treated in a humane way? And last, there is a controversy over whether animals should be used in scientific experience, just as some people debate whether we should stop eating meat. Are people pushing the envelope if they consider putting an end to either of these 2 activities? I'd like you to answer these questions on your own right now. So once we are back in our Zoom meeting and I'm going to ask you this question, you don't have to think anymore. You already know how to respond. And I would like you to use the words and phrases from this box. If you've used them already once, tick them off so you use another one. Pause your video. Go ahead. Great. So you just answered those 6 questions by using the words from the box. Really good. And it brings us now to looking at grammar. We're going to read the conversation and answer the questions. Yeah? I just did the assignment about animal communication. The article reported that some parrots could recognize themselves in a mirror. Yeah, and it said they were able to string 3 or 4 words together too. Actually, my professor told us that he had just written a paper on how parrots learn language. He said he was going to publish it next month. What did the paper say? Well, apparently it warned that researchers had to study animal intelligence more carefully before drawing conclusions. Okay, that's the dialogue. Number 1, do we know the exact words of the article or the professor? And number 2, why do you think speaker B chose not to quote the article or the professor directly? Nothing was quoted. Okay, I want you to answer that. Take some time to answer those 2 questions first. Okay, that brings us to the grammar. When we state something literally as someone had said it, then we quote, then we're using the exact words of a speaker. When we're not using the exact same words as the speaker, then we are reporting, and that's called reported speech. Now, reported speech, also often called indirect speech, reports what a speaker said without using his or her own exact words. Use words like said, that, told, indicated, mentioned, reported. Those are called reporting verbs to show that you are reporting information that someone else said. Those are not your own words. When you are reporting what a speaker or article said, backshift the verb in the indirect speech statement. For example, original, we are conducting some interesting research on endangered whales. That's really the exact words. Reported could be, the scientist explained that she was conducting some interesting research with endangered whales. So we have to change. We have to make a change. You can see that there is a change in tense. The verb in the reported speech has shifted back in time. That's the back shift. You go to the past, because if you're reporting something that has been said, it's been said before, so it's already in the past. So in this case, from the present continuous to the past continuous, right? Okay, We are going to look at that on page 95. If you are reporting a person's unchanging beliefs or general truth rather than an event, it is not necessary to change the tense of the original. So if you're talking about a person's beliefs or a general truth, we don't change the tense. Other than that, we change always from the present to the past. So let's say many animals are remarkably intelligent. The zoologist told her students that many animals are remarkably intelligent. Okay, just for your information, to have further explanation on this and to see how the tenses change, you can go to your ebook for reading and writing, or your ebook for listening and speaking, and go to this material. So that's your ebook for listening and speaking. Go to Unit 4. And in the summary, you will see the whole grid of the indirect speech, reported speech. Common verb changes. So from the present tense, it goes to the past tense. So present continuous to past continuous. Present tense to present perfect tense. So the past tense becomes past perfect. Present perfect becomes past perfect. Will becomes would, can becomes could, may becomes might, must, had to. So basically from the simple present it becomes the simple past. Present continuous, past continuous, present perfect, past perfect, all goes to the past. Present perfect continuous will be past perfect continuous, and now we go to the past tense. Simple past becomes past perfect. Past continuous becomes past perfect continuous. Past perfect, past perfect, past perfect continuous, past perfect continuous stays the same. Simple future, past future, future continuous, future past continuous, will, would, can, could, must, had to, shall, should, may, might. In imperative, it becomes an infinitive. Should, could, might, oughta do not change tense, and pronouns, possessives, time words change to reflect the original meaning. So everything that is originally in the present becomes the past. Everything that is originally in the past still stays the past with perfect tense, so past perfect. Adds the perfect to it. Do you need to know this? Yes, you do, because this is the formula. You need to know, because otherwise you make mistakes. So you need to know the grid. Now, if you go to your ebook for listening and speaking, you go to Unit 4, and then focus on speaking. You see the grammar, summary, and voila, there you are. Remember to always use a reporting verb, Okay. Let me see. So it is important to remember that the original present goes to the past. If the original is in the past, then it will be past perfect, Okay, here we have an example of how it is used. I'm reading an article about Jane Goodall. You mentioned you were reading an article about Jane Goodall, right? That's right. So this is then the original, direct, and this is indirect. I am, you were, or I was. Okay, so in our Zoom meeting, we will practice that together, So here you see student A. Jane Goodall is the world authority on chimpanzees. She said she was the world authority on chimpanzees. This is when you talk and you use it to repeat it. Okay, we will do that in our Zoom meeting. So the role play conversation between A, who believes that animals are quite intelligent, and B, who does not. A and B each use information and reasons they've heard from page 80 and 81. For example, my professor told me that a recent study had shown that an ape had learned to use sign language to communicate. Well, my uncle, who's a zookeeper, claimed that when the chimp he worked with made signs, he yada yada yada. So support for a position and support for B's position. So you could use the information from college professor, report neighbor and friend. or for the B's position, uncle who's a zookeeper, teacher, parents who have had cats for years, and roommate. So you can tap into this information in order to make this role play. I want you to look over it and try it by yourself, practice it by yourself, so when we are in our Zoom meeting, this can go fluent. Then we're gonna practice speaking and reporting. Okay. That brings us to pronunciation. Yes, no questions with or. Yes, no questions with or. Ask the listeners to make a choice. Yeah, is communication more complex in humans or animals? You gotta say. Some yes, no questions that includes an or phrase are true. Yes, no questions. They're asking the listener to say yes or no, not to make a choice. Yeah, how would you answer this one? Can animals communicate about the past or the future? Right? The words joined by or are in different thought groups. So asking choice questions with or. Yeah? Or intonation rises on the first choices and fall on the second. Is communication more complex in humans or in animals? Right. Asking true yes no questions with or. The or phrase is pronounced as one group and the intonation rises smoothly over the phrase. The or phrase. Or answering questions with or. Sometimes the answer to a choice question and a true yes no question can be almost the same. Okay, now let's listen to this. Listen to the questions and repeat them. The questions are all true yes no questions. Say the words in the or phrase as one thought group. Your voice should rise smoothly over the or phrase. Let's listen.
1,
Do you have a cat or a dog?
2, do you like to visit zoos or parks? 3,
Do chimps communicate with sounds or gestures?
4, can your dog shake hands or roll over? 5,
Can that parrot ask or answer questions?
6, did the speaker talk about the intelligence of cows or chickens? 7,
Have you read about seagulls or crows?
8, do you have a fur coat or a leather jacket?
Yeah, very good. Okay, so those were sentences 1 till 8 pronounced as true yes no questions. So the intonation kind of goes up. Now we're going to listen to the same thing, but we're going to listen to them spoken asking choice questions. How is it different?
1,
Do you have a cat or a dog?
2, do you like to visit zoos or parks? 3,
Do chimps communicate with sounds or gestures?
4, can your dog shake hands or roll over? 5,
Can that parrot ask or answer questions?
6, did the speaker talk about the intelligence of cows or chickens? 7,
Have you read about seagulls or crows?
8, do you have a fur coat or a leather jacket?
Yes. Now you can hear the difference. Was when it was true yes no questions, the intonation went up. But when it was choice questions, the intonation went down. You hear the difference? Yeah, so intonation on what happens with your voice can determine a lot. So when it goes up, it means it's yes, no. And if it goes down, it's a choice question, yeah? Okay, for the speaking skill, we are looking at asking for and giving examples. Which is important because it's a part of asking for understanding, making sure you understand, or giving examples would mean that you make sure that your listeners understand. Sometimes listeners needed examples, but not to just understand, but also to believe the speaker's point. Yeah, so that's why we use examples. Elephants have an amazing capacity for memory. Really? What do you mean? Well, off the top of my head, female elephants remember hundreds of other elephants. I read an article about this. See, so what do you mean? Ask for clarification and meaning. And the answer in this case comes up with an example, which in this case then re-emphasizes the point the person is making. So asking for examples, could you give me an example? What do you mean? Such as? Like what, for instance? Could you give me some more details? Or giving examples. Let me give you an example. Well, what I mean is, for instance, one example is, such as, well, let's see. Well, off the top of my head, now these are examples that you can use for giving examples. I'd like you to read the conversations and fill in the blanks with phrases to ask for and give examples. Okay, there can be more than one correct answer. You're going to answer in number 1, 2, and 3. Pause your video. Go ahead. Great. We're going to share information about types of animal intelligence. Each person selects one square in a box and reads the corresponding information and then takes turns explaining the finding to the other member of the group, giving and asking for examples. Use reported speech to restate the words of the researcher. So, person A, expression of emotions. Person B, self-recognition. So, this is what we're going to do in our Zoom meeting. We're going to share information, then you're going to express yourself. You give an example, you ask for an example, that's number 1. And second, you have to use reported speech to mention the words of the researcher. So you're going to give an example, ask for an example, and you're going to restate the words of the researcher by using reported speech. So my advice to you is to read this right now and to practice it by yourself, so during our Zoom meeting you're ready to answer this. Okay, pause your video. And as you can see here, there's person C, problem solving, person D, and language. Yeah, give example, ask for an example, and report the researcher's words by using indirect reported speech. Okay, very good. That brings us to the final speaking test, which is our project. Yeah, remember you're going to give arguments for and arguments against a position related to animals and the relationship to people. You're going to present this information. Yeah, so you're going to present arguments for and against a position related to animals and the relationship with people. So you already have your groups and you could choose between the topics 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or you could choose this topic, should people wear fur or leather. Pick the topic, brainstorm, using your brainstorm to do research, to get your sources, for 2 reasons, right? 1, for your own background information, to know more about the topic and about the type of speaking. And the other reason is to get information that you can include in your presentation. Then, making your outline like this. Remember, the introduction, point, explanation, example, point, explanation, example, and so on, and then the conclusion. Very clear outline. Yeah, remember that? So it's important that you have your outline really complete. Topic, reason, example, example, not a reason. So you have your topic, reason 1, reason 2, reason 3, reason 4. So one side of the argument, let's say the pro, reason, explanation, example, reason, explanation, example, and let's say the other side of the argument, that's the con, reason, explanation, example, reason, explanation, example. And remember that this must have a clear introduction and a clear conclusion. So you're going to give topics for and against. For example, this one, should people wear fur or leather? Now, the first reason is people should not wear fur or leather, so it's the con. First reason, killing animals for fur is not humane. Animals raised for fur are kept in humane conditions. They are killed before they reach old age. Another reason is fur is not necessary for people because they can wear other materials, example. And a reason 4, a pro, people should be allowed to wear fur or leather because animals are raised specifically for fur. Many animals such as rabbits, minks, and chinchillas wouldn't be alive unless people bred them for their fur. They weren't wild animals that were shot. An example, another reason, an example. So this is what it looks like. Remember, you need to add the introduction and, of course, a conclusion. This is just the body part, right? Yeah, very good. Okay, that is basically what we've been talking about today. So very important to review real quick with you what it is that we've been studying today. Okay, the first thing we did today was a revision of our vocabulary, finding out the synonyms for the underlined words, knowing the meaning. Then we listened to a conversation, and we had to put words and phrases in connection with the correct definition. For creating, we took turns answering questions using vocabulary from a box to really think about it, and I wanted you to answer those questions 1 to 6 so we can discuss them in our Zoom meeting. For the grammar, we looked at reported speech. So we have quoted and reported, direct and indirect. Quoted is direct, where we state someone else's exact words. But reported is that we say what someone has said before, but we're not using the exact wording. And for reported speech, we need to use a reporting verb. Remembering that if it is a general truth, the tense does not change. Other than that, if the direct or the quoted is present, the reported becomes past. If the quoted is past, then the reported becomes past perfect. It always has a change into the past, okay? Unless it is an unchanging belief or a general truth. Okay, and then we practiced that. Now, for the pronunciation, you have no questions with or. So, for example, asking choice questions, the intonation basically goes down. But if you're asking true, yes, no questions, the intonation kind of goes up. That is the difference with the yes, no question. So if it is a choice question where you can choose which one you want, then the intonation goes down. If it is a true yes, no question, the intonation goes up. Yes. And then the speaking skill was asking for examples and giving examples. And then practice that. And then trying it out, which we will do in our next Zoom meeting, where you have to ask for an example, give an example, and report a researcher's words. This is important for your presentation, which is your speaking project, in which you will present arguments for and against a position related to animals and the relationship to people, in which you will have to give an example, maybe even asking an example, where you have to report the information from a researcher. So it's important that you can include those 3 components. Yeah, remember that for choice questions, your intonation goes down, and for yes, true, yes, no, your intonation goes up. Well done, you did a great job. I'll see you in the next Zoom meeting where we will discuss this material. God bless you. Bye.